In this segment, we're going to take a look at the Create Basic Shapes tool, and that's found over here on the left-hand toolbar. And this tool has several options, so if I click and hold, it'll fly open and we can see that we've got Create Ellipse, Create Pie Shape, Create Square or Rectangle, Create Trapezoid or Parallelogram, Create Polygon, and Create Star Shape. So I'll show all of these different options, starting with the Ellipse option. So to use the tool, what I need to do is left click to choose a sort of location in my desktop, and then I drag, click and drag, and as I drag I can change the size and the shape of the circle or oval to be any size and shape that I want. Now it might be interesting to look right now. I touched earlier on if I hold down my control key on my keyboard, how I get the sort of radius lines of a circle, and they're actually specifically 22.5 degrees apart. So here you would have, let's say 0, 22.5, this will be 45, which kind of nicely gives me a perfect circle shape. Another 22.5, and then you're at 90. So the idea is you could use this to help you create specific shapes. And once I'm happy with the shape I've created and the size, I just simply let go with my mouse and it creates the shape. And then I could either keep creating circles, so I could go ahead and draw more of them, and then I can right click when I'm done using the tool. Now a little bit different than when you use the freehand tools. When you're creating something like an ellipse, if you create several of them but you don't right click in between, they still end up as individually selectable objects. So it's not like when I showed it in the freehand tool, if I didn't right click and I just kept drawing, the objects kind of became, I guess, sort of like they were married together. So with this tool, you just simply turn it on and left click and drag, and you can create as many as you want, and then right click to finish using the tool. So that's the ellipse option, and we'll move on to the next option, which is going to be to create a pie shape. Now when I get the pie shape, I'll just notice right off the bat that I have the ability to adjust my tool options, and you can set your starting angle. So I think normally it might be like a 90, and your stop angle 360. Now if I left click and drag, you'll see that we create a pie shape, and the pie shape is specifically the numbers that I used. So if I was to, I'll right click and finish, you'll notice that when I select a pie shape, I have all the sort of standard tool options, but then I also have specifically that start angle and stop angle, and I can use these to control the shape. So for example, if I change that start angle to be 110 instead of 90, push enter, moves the starting angle. If I change the stop angle from 360 to, I don't know, 270 or whatever, it'll change that angle as well. So we have the ability to change the different numbers, and it basically changes the way that the shape looks. So let's create pie shape, and again it's left click and drag to create that pie shape. Now the next tool is going to be the create rectangle, and the only extra tool option for this is roundness, and right now it's set at 10. Now I'm going to set that to 0 and then go ahead and draw. See if I can draw any kind of rectangle or square shape that I want to. Same thing if I use my control key, so left click and drag to start using, turn on the tool, left click and drag to start using it, and if I hold the control key down, I get those same radius lines, and I can again use that to help me make a perfect square or get a specifically shaped rectangle. And so when I've created that, now what I wanted to show was the roundness option. So basically that has to do with the corners, and right now set at 0 I have a perfectly sort of square corner to my shape. If I change the roundness to be, well, let's say 20%, you'll see that it gives a rounded corner to my shape, and so that's what the roundness option will do for us, is just create rounded corners to the rectangle or square shape. Now the next tool option is going to be create trapezoid or parallelogram, and in this case you have basically just the slant and a checkbox for whether it's a trapezoid, and let me show you what that looks like. So I'll left click and drag, and so there I've got my shape, and I can again adjust the size and position just by dragging it like this. So When I let go, there's the slant, and if I change that to be a different number, so I'll just change it to be, let's say, 50%, then you can see that it's got the top and the bottom, so the top is 50% of the bottom. And the checkbox for trapezoid, if I uncheck that, you'll see that it basically gives us a parallelogram versus a trapezoid. So turn on the trapezoid option, and you get this look. Turn it off, and you get that appearance. So two different ways that you can use that tool. The next one is create polygon. And when I use create polygon, I have the number of sides, so I could adjust that to be 5 or 6 or whatever, and I have that same start angle. Now I'll go ahead and draw the 5-sided polygon, and maybe I'll just change the starting angle to be from 90 to 120. And so you see that it puts that starting angle from 90 to 120, and it basically kind of rotates it is what it ends up doing. And I could change the number of sides, so make it 6, make it 7, and it'll automatically adjust that. Now, didn't I do that? Let's see here. 7. Yeah, turn it to 8, and you get a perfect hexagon. So the number of sides, why don't I try that again? When you go to create it, you turn on the tool. So we'll set the number of sides at, well, it's set at 8. We'll set the starting angle at, let's say, 90, and go ahead and draw ourselves the shape. So one more tool option, and that's the star shape. And with the star shape, we have the number of rays. So I'll set it maybe as a 5-point star. I've got my start angle, which means where will the first ray be, and then the size of the ray is 60%. So it looks like this. If I left click and drag, we get that star shape. Now, the number of rays, if I adjust that, we'll see that we'll get a 6-pointed star. The starting angle set at 90, well, I could adjust that to be, let's say 110 or something like that. And it just rotates it. And why don't we create another one, and we'll try the ray size as, let's say, smaller, 40%. And I'll draw the ray. So you see that I get much more pointy rays, and if I just change that to be, let's say, 80%, then I'm going to have a lot less of a pointy ray. So you can see that that's how we can create all sorts of different basic shapes and then modify them using the tool options to get specifically the exact shape that we want. So that's my segment on using the Create Basic Shapes tool.